Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make sweet potato pie. So before we make our pie, we're going to actually use real sweet potatoes to make this. You're going to have to bake them so that way they're ready for when you're ready to make the pie, because you want to actually get these in your oven at 400 degrees, and we're going to bake these for about an hour, because we want to actually get these cooked way ahead of time so that way they cool down enough to where we can handle and use. So when you put them in the oven, you're just going to bake them straight out for the whole hour. And you're going to need about like maybe 3 decently large ones. If you have smaller like I had, you're going to need 4. When they come back from the oven, you're going to actually use like a potato masher and mash them up a bit before we start mixing stuff in, just for the fact that we want to make sure that they are completely mashed down to a point where we can actually use a mixer on these and add other ingredients. So once you get your potatoes in the bowl, get going. Make sure before you put them in the bowl though that you have looked to make sure there are no dark spots that you need to remove after you bake them, because sometimes the skin of the potato has like, some scarring on it or whatever, and you need to cut some of that off sometimes. But this is what mine looked like when it came back out of the oven after an hour, and now I'm ready to start. So everything you see on my counter is what I'm going to use to make this. Now, to bake the actual sweet potato pies, we're going to need the oven preheated to 350 degrees, because when they go in, they're going to be like in there for 45 minutes to an hour depending. You just got to check it to see if it's set up enough after 45 minutes to actually remove it. And as you can see, I have everything on the counter here. Now you're going to need 2 pie crusts. You're just using standard size ones. You don't have to pre-bake these, but you're going to do this. There's enough stuff here just to make 2 of these, which is wonderful. And if you say, well, I don't need 2 sweet potato pies, well, you don't have to eat them both. You could actually share one with someone if you wanted to. So what we're going to do is start mixing up the ingredients. So we're going to take 1 large egg and we're going to break open the yolk and put that in. And then we're going to use 1 can of evaporated milk. And we're pouring in the whole can of this. So go ahead and add that too. And once you get this in here, then we'll start adding in all the other dry ingredients that are going to get added to it. So make sure you get the whole can out. And then we're going to move on next to our sugars, because you're not only going to have like regular sugar, but you're also going to have brown sugar in this. So we're going to start off with 3/4 of a cup of regular granular sugar. And then we're going to add a cup of brown sugar to this. And once we get this in, we want to mix this up a little bit, because I always find that it's easier to mix up a little as you go along, just to make sure that some of the stuff gets incorporated and it isn't such a mess. Because I mix up a bunch of stuff before I actually use a hand mixer to do something like this, or even a stand mixer, just for the fact that it just makes it a little easier to get it all together later. Now, to this, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Then we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. And that's all the ingredients we're putting in here. Now we're going to bring in the hand mixer. Now, as you're mixing this up, you mashed it with the potato masher, and that's really great and all, but there's still going to be lumps in this. So this is where we're going to get rid of those. We're going to use the mixer on medium or whatever, and just go through this whole bowl from side to side across the bottom, and let it chop up any of the thicker pieces, because sometimes there are thicker pieces of the potato. This will do the job of breaking them up, and it really isn't that hard to get them that way. Just work around the bowl and just make sure that there are no large lumps left in this, because as it goes along, it's going to continue to chop it, break it, split it up, and then eventually you're going to have something that's more of a smooth texture. And that way, that's what we're really trying to go for here. We're not trying to go for anything that's like overly lumpy or whatever. And as you mix this, just pay attention to what's floating around your bowl and you'll get it all out. So I found the easiest way to do this is, once I get this all mixed up, set it on my cutting board here, I put a pie shell to the side. I'm literally gonna like ladle some of this in, because it just is a lot easier to deal with as in pouring it in, rather than splashing it all over the place. Because this version of a sweet potato pie is kind of wet. Now there are drier ones, but I prefer the wet version. So this can easily just be spooned into it until you get them both ready and done. And like I said, they're going into the oven at 350 degrees, and they're going to be there for like 45 minutes to an hour. The 2 of mine took probably around like 50 some minutes to bake. because my oven seems to go a little lower temperature than it should. And when they come back from the oven, they look something like this. And these really are a sweet treat. And if you've never tried sweet potato pie, you really have to. Just throw some whipped cream on top and you'll love it. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out my cookbooks, which are available in bookstores worldwide. The first is all about everyday cooking. The second is all about baking. Have a great day.